Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Crystal and today I thought I would discuss my 10 favorite reads of 2023. So hard to believe that this year has flown by and here we are in December. It is the end of the year and I just wanted to look back and go over what my favorite books were. Before I count down the 10, I do have one honorable mention, and that is Manacled by Sin Lin Yu. It is a Hermione fan fiction that I read this year. It was so good. I loved it. So it is Harry Potter meets The Handmaid's Tale. And Hermione has been taken prisoner. She has basically walled off her memories so that way her memories from like the past year right before the war ended and all the way up to like while she's in captivity, because she is trying to protect someone as well as protect others, because Hermione was very involved in the war. When Hermione is removed from her prison, she is taken, basically also told that she will be in Voldemort's breeding program, and she is given to the High Reeve, which is Draco Malfoy. The point of this is because, one, the purebloods need to be replenished and they're having trouble conceiving babies, and two, the hope is that Hermione will recover her memories if she gets pregnant. Trigger warnings for this book, because even though it was such a good book, there are some trigger warnings going into this. In fact, I was not sure how they were going to become enemies to lovers, but this story was so good and it was so well written, and it was just like, it really like wrecks you. So be prepared for an emotional ride for this one. So number 10 is A Dowry of Blood by T.S. Gibson, and this is basically Gothic literature at its finest. We have one of the brides of Dracula, Constantina, and she is basically writing sort of like a diary entry as well as like a letter to Dracula. Constantina is writing about her time with Dracula. So it starts off from when Dracula finds her and turns her and basically saves her, all the way through the years, through the centuries, as they find new brides. And it also shows that Dracula is abusive and manipulative. And Constantina has a choice to make, and she struggles with this choice. Does she stay in this toxic relationship or does she break free? And it's her struggle because she really loves Dracula and she loves who she thinks that he used to be or who he portrays. But then she finds out that everything that she thought was really a lie, and that's not truly who he is. Number 9 is First Comes Scandal by Julia Quinn. I actually bought it this year. It was a 5-star read for me as well. I loved this book. It was so funny. So this is part of the Bridgerton prequel series with the Roguesbys. We have Georgina Bridgerton. She, in the previous book, had been kidnapped by this scoundrel of a man, and he didn't do anything to her, but it doesn't matter. In the eyes of society, she is ruined, even though she escaped from him. And so the Roguesbys, who are the Bridgertons' neighbors and best friend, decide that they want Georgina to be rescued. She needs to be saved. So the Roguesbys go to their youngest son, Nicholas, who is studying to be a doctor, and they say, hey, we need you to marry Georgina Bridgerton. And Georgina and Nicholas at first are both against it, but they are best friends. They've been close friends their whole lives. And so this is a friends to lovers. They finally agree to marry each other, and it is just a sweet romance. There's so much comedy in this. And Georgina's cat, one of her cats, is the true hero of this story. Oh my gosh, I love that cat. So many funny instances happened with that. Number 8 is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. So Adeline Grace was a new author for me this year, and I absolutely loved Belladonna. We have Signa, who is a 19-year-old orphan, and Signa is unable to die. So she can see death and she can see ghosts, but she herself is unable to die. even though things have happened, she should have passed on, and even Death is confused by this, but he's also a little intrigued. What we have is a murder mystery because Signa goes to her final set of guardians, and her guardians are the Hawthorns, and she finds out that before she arrived, the mother had passed away, Lillian, and she starts to see Lillian's ghost, and she wants Signa to help her solve not only her death, but her daughter Blythe is now showing symptoms of being poisoned, and she is on the verge of death. And so Signa is determined to save Blythe, no matter what the cost. And Signa teams up with Death, and so you have this mystery that they help solve, as well as help Signa to unlock these powers that are very similar to Death. Number 7 is House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson, and this is a gothic horror novel. I loved this book. So we have Marion. So Marion is a young girl. She has lived in the slums her whole life, and she wants something better, more to life. She sees an ad in the newspaper for a blood maiden. So she answers the call, and she decides she's going to travel. She's going to travel to north and become a blood maiden. She becomes the blood maiden to the Countess Elizabeth, who is basically the female version of Dracula. And this story is actually based on the original Countess from Hungary, who was like a very Dracula character. She murdered young women, and so Marion is now her blood maiden, and blood maidens are not only there to provide blood to their to the wealthy, whoever has their they sign on to serve, but also their body as well. And Marion eventually starts to see that things are not what they seem in this House of Hunger, and that the Countess is not the savior that she thinks that she is. And that especially when other blood maidens suddenly start to disappear. Number 6, that is another author for me, Ashley Poston. It is The Dead Romantics, and we have just a cute romantic literature. It's supposed to be a rom-com, but honestly, it was just so beautifully written. And while there is a little bit of comedy, it's really a story about overcoming grief. We have Florence. She is the ghostwriter to a very, very famous author, and she no longer believes in love, and she's supposed to write this final book. And Florence is like, how can I write this book when I no longer believe in love? She goes to her brand new editor and says, please, I need an extension. He refuses to give her an extension. She leaves that meeting and immediately basically gets a phone call saying, you have to come home. There's been a horrible tragedy in the family. And so she goes back home. She is dealing with this grief, and she has always avoided being home because she can see ghosts, just like her father has always been able to see ghosts. And at home, she was known as, an outcast in society, and she didn't want to be there anymore. So as she's dealing with this grief and this tragedy in her family, the doorbell rings, and she answers the doorbell, and it is her brand new editor, who is a ghost. And he has no idea why he's a ghost. He doesn't know what's happening. And it's the two of them trying to figure out and overcome grief and also find love. Number 5 is Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco, and it is Maniscalco's adult fantasy debut. We have Prince Envy, who is one of the 7 princes of hell. His kingdom is basically on the verge of collapse. It has fallen, and it's all because centuries ago, he made the mistake of playing a game with the unseelie king, and he lost big time. Now, here we are, centuries later, a new game has started, and Envy is determined to win because if he doesn't, then his kingdom it's gone. He will lose everything. This is his last chance to prove himself and to regain his kingdom. It brings him to Camilla, who gets tied up into this game along with Envy, and the two of them travel to Hell in order to continue this game and to find the final pieces that they need and try to defeat the Unseelie King. I really enjoyed this book, but I loved the Kingdom of the Wicked series, and I loved this book as well. Number 4 is A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber. Actually, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to say like the whole Once Upon a Broken Heart series for this one, for number 4. I know, it's 3 books, but I loved the entire series. And you have to read the trilogy in order to get to A Curse for True Love. So with this series, we have Evangeline Fox. She makes a deal with a fate, and his name is Jax, and he is the Prince of Broken Hearts in book 1. And the deal is she wants Jax to stop the wedding of her love, Luke, who is about to marry her stepsister, and she knows that something is wrong because Luke was promised to marry her, and they were in love, so she thought, and now suddenly he's marrying her stepsister, so she just knows that he is under a spell. And Jack says, yeah, I'll break this up, I'll stop the wedding, but you have to give 3 people that I choose kisses whenever I tell you to do that. She thinks, oh, this is a harmless, thing, and I'll do it. Well, the way he stops the wedding is by turning everyone into stone. And Evangeline is like, that is not what I wanted. What have you done? So she takes this curse upon herself. She turns herself into stone because she just thinks her true love will save her. Well, the story goes from there. Eventually, she ends up traveling and finding Jax and realizes that Luke may not have been her true love. And each book follows Jax and Evangeline as they begin to fall in love with each other. But Jax has ulterior plans. In this 3rd book, A Curse for True Love, I know a lot of people got upset because there was a 3rd character who we got a POV from, and they weren't really a fan of that character, but I loved it. I do think that we needed more Jax in that book, more of his POV rather than this 3rd character, but I really liked that 3rd character just because it helped me see just this downward spiral that they were in and how truly evil they ended up becoming. So it was a great read for me. I loved it. I ended up loving this series, and Stephanie Garber, a new author that I love this year. Number 3 is another new author for me. It is The House of Salt and Sorrow by Erin Craig. I truly love Erin Craig's writing. I have read all of her books that she has out this year. I have loved every single one of them, but I ultimately loved House of Salt and Sorrow the most. It is a young adult fantasy romance, and it is a 12 Dancing Princess retelling. So we have Anna Lee. She lives in a kingdom by the sea, and her sisters, 4 of her sisters have died, all mysterious deaths that can't quite be explained. And now Anna Lee is seeing the ghost of her sisters, and she is trying to find out who has killed them and try to stop the murderer before more of her sisters die. She ends up, while she is on this quest to try and find this killer, she stumbles upon a doorway to another realm, possibly. And at this other place, there are balls, and there's this glittering, and there's some romance. But not everything is as it seems, and she has to figure out how this is tied to her sisters. It was a great read. It is very gothic horror mystery, and the romance in this was very minimum, but all the vibes, and it was just a really good, creepy read to read around Halloween. Absolutely loved it. Number 2 is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Garros. So this book was controversial. Half the people loved it, half the people hated it. I, of course, loved it. We have Violet, who is basically told by her mother she has to become a dragon rider. In this world, you either go into one of 4 basically military And you can either be a scribe, which is they write down all of the history of the world, or you can be a dragon rider, or there's some other positions in other places. But her mother is like, no child of mine is going to be a scribe. You are going to be a dragon rider, or you are going to die, which is a very real possibility, because not only can the cadets murder you whenever you get to the dragon rider quadrant, but the dragons can murder you as well. Plus, every situation that she is thrown into is meant to kill off cadets. Violet also suffers from a medical condition that makes her easy to break. And the man who is here at this school, who should hate her and want her dead, ends up falling for her, which it's their love story, as well as Violet trying to figure out what is happening and unraveling the secrets of this world, and the secrets possibly even of her mother and the other higher ups. It was a great read. I highly recommend it. I loved it. And my number one pick, it is Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. I love this book. It's honestly an office romance. It is not really like a villain origin story. In a way it is, but not the villain who you think it is. And so we have Evie. She is down on her luck. She has lost her job. And she is the sole provider for her father and her little sister that she has been raising the entirety of her little sister's life. So she is in the forest, wandering around, lamenting about what she's going to do and how she needs money, and they're going to be starving soon if she can't find a job. She crosses paths with the villain. And the villain is running from the King's Knights. So the King's Knights see the two of them together and think that she's helping him, so they have to run off. They get away from the Knights, but now she's in even deeper trouble than she thought she was originally, because now the Knights think that she's the bad guy. Well, as she's depressed and talking out loud over everything that is happening, the villain's like, hey, I need an assistant. I'll pay you like a very good amount of money. Just come be my assistant. So she agrees. And it is their story. They are trying to figure out as well who is sabotaging the villain, because there is a mole in the office, and the king, who the villain is set against and wants to bring down the king's empire, is telling the king all of their secrets. I really, really loved this book. It made me laugh the entire time. And if a book can make me laugh, it's a great book. That's all I want. Sometimes you just want a book that just makes you laugh and have a great time, and that's what this book is. It was an excellent read. It is my number one pick of the year. And let me know down in the comments what your favorite books were of 2023. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.